educators to then buy in, to then get their principals bought in on something like what you did?
Right. Well, before I could do that, I had to really embrace what I was believing in. And I believed in building community. So it took me some years, after I really knew that that was an important work to be done. I took the next like 7 years to really start to, one, work on what building community looked like. Then I took on other roles and positions where I started training educators informally, sharing with them my story, strategies, my tools. And then I took on an actual full-time position as working with the district from the district office level, where I was training and providing partnerships and community partnerships and building that throughout the entire district. And then I went over to Inglewood, another which I actually lived in, which was closer after I had been in Compton for so long. It was interesting because the word community grew bigger than just gang members. It was bigger than people who lived in the community. It was bigger than even local businesses. But now I went to Inglewood, where it included now new football teams that just came and embarked upon the city, like the Rams and the Clippers and the Chargers, really big teams, not only coming to live in the city, but building these huge, gigantic, monumental stadiums that where they were impacting a city, financially, homes and displacement. And so now they were in a place where they needed to build relationships within the city of Inglewood. And so now I found myself in the middle of helping those, teams really increase their community footprint in the city. So I started developing relationships with every single school. They remodeled several schools, brought in playground equipment, hired people. It has been just amazing, that work. And it was a great work to do because, both needed a relationship. The LA Rams and all of the Chargers and Clippers, they're still building relationships, even got eyeglasses for students who needed eyeglasses. I mean, they have really been working hard at developing these relationships. And so the schools and the community as well. So now I launched my new business, which is called the Why Not Incubator, designed to do just that, to empower and inform as many educators as I can globally, because I feel like this is not just right where I am. I think everywhere we're, especially embarking upon 2021, if educators don't start thinking bigger, if they don't start thinking community, because that's the role of this work now. It is no longer in the four walls. Right now, school is in, but school is out. Brick and mortar is out for now. It won't be forever, but school is in session. But I think it's time, and this is where I see myself as helping educators to think through, what is their community? What connections do they need to make? How do we empower, not just engage? Because I think we've shifted from engagement to empowerment. And so now by providing workshops, a lot of webinars, did one yesterday, and also executive to superintendents and principals about how do they build and empower their community like never before.
So I absolutely love the partnerships. And it's interesting because the last 3 months, we've really ramped up. I literally got a phone call from our director of community partnerships, because I believe 100% in what you're saying. We got a list of every nonprofit in South Florida, and we started calling them up. And we said, hey, how do we serve you? Here's what we do. Is there anything you can support us on? Mm-hmm. And we start with the nonprofit.
It starts off with, hello, who am I? Remember that little badge that when you go to somewhere it says, hello, my name is? You know, so many of these, so good for you, because so many of these companies, they don't even know the superintendents and the principals of these schools. And it's like amazing. They're right down the street. They're in 5-mile radius. But I always say, look in the mirror. Whose fault is it? You know, I mean, I'm not trying to point a finger, but it's our responsibility to reach out like you did to say, hi, my name is, and this is what we do.
Yeah, we had probably.
It's time consuming. It is.
It is. And it takes time to work with each one of their boards and their executive directors and everything else. But once and we framed it as like a 3-year MOU, you know, you want to cancel it, you can cancel it. But at the end of the day, we can put your logo on our website. We can push you guys. We can offer your services. You can send us. Win-win. It's a win-win all day because you're working in the community.
Right.
And the couple of years before, we've had a ton of speakers, executive, law enforcement, judges, small business owners. We've invited a lot of people to come in and speak just because my thought was in the beginning, how do I show perspective to our students? And our students are usually students that have failed the system at some place or that are going through major challenges and need an alternative ed schedule. Some of them need to work during the day, and the system won't let them work during the day. So we provide something that's an alternative ed for a small percentage of students, but at the end of the day, it's like 10% could be a part of it. And if they don't have a perspective, if we don't have those outside resources, then it's very challenging for us long term on what we can offer and be the best. Like I'm thinking of, we're a product and we have a client, which is the student, and we have to give them the best product available. So I think it's a lot.
That's good.
I think it's a lot different than the normal industry, which is the students coming here, they have to come here. You got to sit down, you got to learn. With us, we're private. It's school choice here. I mean, Florida compared to California, it's a whole different world.
It is.
So where I believe that's what's going to happen in the future. I believe more school systems are more businesses. I'll take it back. One manager at a Walmart said that it costs about $5,000 to hire, train, and put somebody on the floor. It's about $5,000. So if it costs $5,000, and it's funny because I've told this to students before, and they're like, "How does it cost $5,000 to find one person?"
Right.
And I'm like, you got to hire full-time people. You got to pay insurance. You got to pay overhead. You have to pay, online platforms to advertise. You have to pay air conditioning, heating, water. You have to pay for their medical. You have to pay for, like, there's all these things that nobody ever sees.
One person is $5,000.
One person, $5,000.
Wow.
So my thought to local companies is, I'll give you a kid that has a LinkedIn account, that has a resume, that knows how to speak better than the average high schooler, that at least has started to create a vision, understand their purpose in life, that knows how to commit and show up for a discounted rate. And at the end of the day, the average company, they can't afford $5,000 anymore. I mean, the Walmarts of the world can.
That's a great idea.
So it's interesting on there's two different sides. One is I bring in business owners that are going to add a ton of value to my kids. The others is the business owners we're going to add a ton of value to them, which is going to keep them coming back because they're going to want great employees. And my kids.
You're building a pathway for success, you know, and I'm so sick and tired of hearing about the school to prison pipeline. Listen, we can build a school to career pipeline. Okay. Yeah. That's what we should be doing. And it's great for those businesses who need and are looking for, and what a great way to train, right? That is awesome. Train their future employees. And then your youngsters are getting life skills. And it's great that you're even talking to them about that now.
So I've had educators say, no, you know, when you talk to kids like in elementary school about their vision, stuff like that, it's not a big thing. You know, they don't even get it. And I'm like, but it sinks. Like they're playing video games starting in first grade.
Right. That's right. If that can sink, then so can this conversation. It's just about the approach.
Yeah. They're doing drugs when they're 7 years old, right? Like, so if that can sync and social media can sync, why can't I help a kid live on purpose and love themselves and love their family and have goals in life?
Okay, give me a social distance high five. Come on.
So so what's the next step for you? Like how like what how do you get more, like what are you looking for? Because obviously you're like, you and I get it. Like I believe this is the future, and I'd love to introduce you to a couple of people that I know personally. I think a couple of my mentors and people in my life would be awesome for you. But what are you looking for out there to open up doors, to get more educators, to get like, what's the market?
Yeah. So what I'm looking for, and my business really started in 2018. So it's really in its infancy stages of really getting out there. Because part of it is, as this conversation and really belief system and mindset around community, I think is really starting to burst open now, based on a lot of things that's happened in our world. The need for unity, all the vitriol and all of the division and hate. Now, I think people are looking for this conversation. There's a conversation that needs to be had around equity, social justice and restorative practices, and just community overall, that I believe that there is more of now a need for that than there was in the past. In the past, schools, we were just inundated with just test scores, test scores, test scores. And all of that is fine around education and academics and achievement. But I personally believe that community partners can help actually elevate student voice. It can actually elevate opportunities and access, and even if it's cash flow for some schools or internship opportunities, and as we were just talking about, mentorship opportunities. So my role and my vision for myself is to really providing some really good training for educators, because if they don't know how to do that, it's not good enough to tell. Educators also have to learn some of the things you're talking about. They actually have to learn how to have conversations. They don't even know how to approach. A lot of them I meet don't even know how to approach businesses, or even afraid to, who do I talk to? Who do I reach out to? And what I know is that every single business has a community affairs division. Somebody's responsible for increasing the community footprint of that corporation, or even that mom and pop store. But the issue is, how do you make connections? So my work, I feel, is to bring those connections, but also train educators how to do this sustainably, so that they do this for years to come. And not only build partnerships for partnership's sake. I want to help schools understand and maximize their community, to work with stakeholders. Listen, your scholars are your stakeholders. How do you maximize them? Your teachers are your stakeholders, and they get trauma too, and they're overwhelmed too, and they're dealing with this whole change of online distance learning too. How do you maximize their potential and build those relationships? So I'm looking at community as a really, really big word. And I am on a mission, Daniel, to provide this training that I know that works. I have some really awesome workshops that I personally have written that I know make a difference, and that will also empower leaders. It will give them strategies and tools how they can do it as well, and how they can empower their communities. And so I am excited about doing this. I know it's an online time, so I'm using online virtual meetings to do virtual trainings as well. I've written a book about this that has been recently published with Scholastic. It is called, and can I show you the book? You want to see the book?
Heck yeah, show it.
Here is my book. Okay.
I
It's
love
called
it.
The Why Not Challenge. Thank you. And it's
Beautiful
called,
cover.
thank you so much, The Why Not Challenge to Success with School Community Partnerships. And in this book, I am promoting and sharing all of the lessons that I've learned that are doable. And I didn't write this book